You know, there's something fascinating about food. It's not just about sustenance, it's a cultural bridge, a way to connect with people and their stories. Yet, when we talk about African cuisine, it seems like there's a huge gap in understanding. I mean, how many times have you heard someone say, "Oh, African food, isn't that just plain and boring?" Or, "Isn't it all just rice and beans?" It's time we break down these misconceptions and dive into the richness of African culinary traditions. First off, let's address the elephant in the room. Africa is a continent, not a country. I know that sounds obvious, but it's a point that gets lost in translation. When people think of African food, they often lump it all together as if it's one homogeneous entity. In reality, Africa is made up of 54 countries, each with its own unique flavors, ingredients, and cooking techniques. From the spicy stews of West Africa, to the aromatic tagines of North Africa, to the grilled meats and vegetables of East Africa, the diversity is staggering. There's no single African cuisine. It's a tapestry woven from countless threads of history, geography, and culture. Let's talk about ingredients for a moment. Many people have this idea that African cuisine relies heavily on a limited set of staples, like maize, cassava, or beans. While these ingredients are indeed important, they're just the tip of the iceberg. Africa is home to a treasure trove of unique ingredients that are often overlooked. Have you ever tasted fonio? It's a tiny, ancient grain from West Africa that's packed with nutrients and has a delightful, nutty flavor. Or how about baobab fruit? It's a superfood that's rich in vitamin C and has a tangy taste that can elevate smoothies or desserts. And let's not forget about the incredible variety of spices that are used across the continent. From the fiery Scotch bonnet peppers in Ghana to the fragrant cumin and coriander in Moroccan dishes, the flavor profiles are as diverse as the people who create them. Now, I want to touch on the idea that African food is unhealthy or overly greasy. This stereotype is not only inaccurate, but also incredibly harmful. Yes, there are rich and hearty dishes that might be high in calories, but there are also countless healthy options. Think about the fresh vegetables, legumes, and whole grains that are staples in many African diets. In countries like Ethiopia, meals often center around injera, a sourdough flatbread made from teff, served with a variety of vegetable and lentil stews. It's not just delicious, it's also nutritious. Plus, the communal way of eating, sharing from a large platter, encourages mindfulness and connection, something we could all use a bit more of in our fast-paced world. Another misunderstanding is the notion that African cuisine is all about meat. Sure, there are many regions where meat plays a central role, but there's also a rich tradition of vegetarian and vegan dishes. In fact, many African cultures have long embraced plant-based eating, often out of necessity or resourcefulness. Dishes like Moroccan vegetable tagine or South African chakalaka, a spicy vegetable relish, showcase how vibrant and flavorful plant-based cuisine can be. And let's not forget about the importance of foraging and wild foods, which are integral to many African diets. From wild greens to mushrooms, these ingredients are not only sustainable, but also packed with flavor. And speaking of flavor, let's talk about the cooking techniques that make African cuisine so unique. There's a beautiful art to the slow cooking methods used in many cultures. Take the West African jollof rice, for example. It's a dish that requires patience and skill, with layers of flavor built up through the careful sautéing of tomatoes, onions, and spices before the rice is added. It's not just a meal, it's a labor of love that brings families together. And then there are the grilling techniques found in East Africa, where meats are marinated in a mix of spices and grilled over open flames, creating a smoky, irresistible flavor. Each technique tells a story, a reflection of the land and the people. Now, let's not forget about the influence of African cuisine on the world stage. Have you noticed how popular dishes like peri-peri chicken or bunny chow have become? These aren't just trendy food items. They're a testament to the global impact of African flavors. And it's not just about the food itself, it's about the stories and histories behind these dishes. When you savor a plate of jollof rice, you're not just enjoying a meal, you're connecting with the history of West Africa, the trade routes, and the cultural exchanges that have shaped the region for centuries. As we explore these misunderstandings, it's essential to recognize the importance of representation. The narratives surrounding African cuisine have often been told through a Western lens, and that's led to a skewed perception. It's time for African voices to take center stage, to share their stories, their recipes, and their traditions. Social media has become a powerful platform for this, with chefs and home cooks sharing their culinary journeys, breaking down stereotypes, and inviting the world to experience the beauty of African cuisine. So the next time someone makes a sweeping generalization about African food, take a moment to share what you've learned. Talk about the diversity, the flavors, the history, and the culture. Encourage them to explore the vast array of dishes that exist across the continent. Whether it's a bowl of spicy peanut soup from Ghana or a fragrant Moroccan couscous, there's a world of flavor waiting to be discovered. Let's celebrate the richness of African cuisine and honor the traditions that have been passed down through generations. Food is a universal language, and it's time we all start speaking it a little more fluently.